A little on the nose to say this about a time travel story, but better late than never, I guess. This is a review of Fly Me to the Moon, episode 5 of season 2 of Star Trek Picard. If you haven't seen the episode yet, take heed. Spoilers may be ahead. Well, we're halfway through the season, and the heroes finally have a goal related to the larger story arc that is more specific than stop the future from being changed. And that goal is ensure an ancestor of Picard's doesn't back out of a scheduled space flight by making sure she has a good time at a party. Okay, I'll take it. But before we get to that, we also get the blessed mercy killing of the Rios Ice subplot. And hey, Rios finally does something! After just kind of standing around for an entire episode. When Seven and Raffi show up to rescue him, he punches an ice agent and disarms him. Yeah! Thanks for helping out, Chris. I'll get back to the ice subplot in a bit because I have thoughts. But first, a bunch of other stuff happens, or half happens. Picard and not Laris, the Watcher, have a chat about how she's been tasked with protecting the destiny of one of Picard's ancestors, a great aunt of his named Renee, who is the aforementioned astronaut set to fly on a historic mission to Europa, only she might not because she's having doubts and keeps crashing in the simulator. Renee is the woman Q was spying on at the end of the last episode, and in this episode we find Q masquerading as Renee's therapist and apparently trying to undermine her confidence. Q also reaches out to Adam Sung, which allows Brent Spiner to add another identical head to his wall of characters who are relatives of Data, but not Data. This Sung is a geneticist who wants to find a cure for his daughter, who is allergic to the outside world and looks just like Soji. And Q is like, I can help you help your daughter, but first you need to help me do something vague that has to do with Picard, because not allowing us to know what characters want or what motivates them is supposed to make us want to watch them more, I guess. Also, the Borg Queen reminds us that she's evil by calling the cops. Then Jurati blows her away with a shotgun to save the cop's life. Then Picard and not Laris get back to the ship just in time to see the rest of the crew dragging the unconscious cop away. And not Laris is like, these are the people you want to help us protect the destiny of your ancestor? And Picard says, oh, there must be a good explanation. I'm sure that cop's not dead. A joke! An actually funny situation where the humor is derived from the timing and the reactions of the characters based on what they do and don't know about what they're watching. Not just something that happened in another show happening again for some reason. A real honest-to-God joke. I knew they could do it. I'm so proud. Anyway, it turns into an episode of Leverage for like one scene as Picard announces that he has a plan, except we don't get to learn what the plan is. Because this isn't actually an episode of Leverage, even though this episode is also directed by Jonathan Frakes. All we learn for now is that for some reason, all of the protagonists need to sneak into the fancy party that they're throwing the astronauts before they begin the final prep for the Europa flight. But there are security measures in place that prevent them from just beaming in undetected. So Jurati is going to sneak in by herself and hack the security system so Picard and the others can enter, except Jurati gets caught by security pretty much immediately. Uh-oh! Except that was part of the plan. Also, the Borg Queen lives in Jurati's head now, which is bad news for the security guards, I guess? Is this part of Picard's plan? Or is Jurati under the influence of the Queen and going into business for herself? I don't know. It doesn't matter because the episode's over. So, first, the good stuff. The characters have a goal, an immediate, concrete goal that relates to the larger story arc of the season. After 5 episodes, we finally have a specific thing that the heroes need to accomplish. And it has to do with astronaut shit. I love astronaut shit. I love when Star Trek does astronaut shit. So, that's good. Q has stuff to do in this episode. It's still all irritatingly vague, but he has a couple of well-acted scenes with Adam Sung. It's not much, but given how inert so much of the season has been up to this point, I'll take it. And Seven and Raffi rescue Rios from the ice bus, which will hopefully mean the end of that subplot. And since I'm back on the subject, let me talk about the ice subplot a little more, because I feel like it speaks to a broader problem with the show this season. So, history gets changed so that Picard's native time period, Earth, has become a xenophobic dictatorship that makes war on non-humans. The protagonists travel back to the 21st century to prevent whatever that change was from happening, and shortly after they arrive, one of them, Rios, is arrested by ICE. Okay, this makes sense. You're trying to prevent a future where aliens are persecuted and demonized, and one of the characters winds up in the clutches of a government agency, a very real government agency that we all know about, with a track record of persecuting undocumented immigrants, sometimes referred to as aliens, and depriving them of their rights and subjecting them to all sorts of horrific abuse. Makes sense thematically. Seems like the show is winding up for some classic Star Trek political commentary. Maybe we're about to see Rios, one of our heroes, stand up to these ICE thugs or suffer at their hands to drive home the message that this kind of treatment of minority groups, which happens in reality, not just in this TV show, is on the timeline that leads to the horrible future they're trying to prevent. But then, nothing really happens. One of the ICE guards is a massive asshole. Rios mostly just sits or stands around and waits to be rescued. And the show itself doesn't really seem interested in saying anything about ICE or its role in our society or the fact that our society continues to tolerate it, other than, that kind of sucks, huh? The show sidelines one of its main characters for an entire episode as part of a subplot that has obvious potential political and social relevance, and it winds up just being a waste of time. It's just a thing that happened. Rios doesn't do anything. The show seems like it might have something pertinent to say, but it doesn't. ICE is bad. Yeah, we know. Thanks. It's like they were coming up with the story for this season and someone said, hey, one of our main characters is a member of an ethnic group that is currently being mistreated by an agency of the U.S. government. If we're having them time travel to 21st century America, maybe we can do something with that? Good idea. What did you have in mind? Maybe Rios gets arrested by ICE? And he doesn't have any ID or anything because he's not from this time, so they think he's an undocumented immigrant and take him to one of those camps in an abandoned Walmart where they keep people fenced in? Oh, okay. And then what? I don't know. Great, let's go with it. See, it's not even really a subplot. It's an idea for a subplot. It's half of an idea. It's notes before a first draft. And sadly, that's what a lot of this season has felt like so far. Potentially interesting ideas, underdeveloped and underwritten. So I'm glad they seem to have wrapped up the ICE storyline. That's a good thing. But it's only a good thing because that storyline wound up being a waste of time, which is a disappointment. The episode wasn't a chore to watch. It moved pretty well. The pacing wasn't really a problem, although the pacing of the overall season is still a mess. And so is the structure. Where the producers are choosing to begin and end these episodes makes no sense at all. And this episode is a good example of that. The opening scene with Raffi and Seven rescuing Rios belongs at the end of the previous episode, and the end of this episode with Jurati and the Borg Queen arrested on purpose feels like it should be the beginning of the next episode. And I know some of you will say, well, it's a streaming series. Streaming series are just like that. To which I say, no, they aren't. I get wanting to end on a cliffhanger or a note of what's going to happen next in order to pull people into the next episode. But there's a difference between a hook or a cliffhanger and just stopping in the middle. And this episode of Picard feels like it starts with stuff they forgot to show us last time and ends with something they weren't supposed to show us until next time. If you imagine the entire season as a single timeline And each episode is a window onto that timeline. It's like the window has been bumped out of position. So we're seeing fragments of 2 episodes instead of one whole episode. I don't know why it's like that. It's bad. In a really fundamental way, it's a failure of basic mechanics that should have been corrected before a single actor ever stepped in front of a camera. But it's better than the 4 episodes that came before it. So at least there's that. And hopefully that trend continues in the second half of the season. Those are my thoughts on this episode. Please share your thoughts with me in the comments. If you want to support my channel, you can become a patron at patreon.com/Steve Shives, or become a channel member by clicking the join button, or make a one-time gift via PayPal or Venmo. Links to all of those are in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week for a review of episode 6.